to avoid unnecessary wear, before assembly, a small amount of lubricant can be applied to the barrel flats, here and here. It's worth noting that only a small amount of lubricant. We don't need to over exaggerate. With the lubricant, it's worth noting that a synthetic oil is the best one to use. Try to avoid grease, because the grease can attract unnecessary dirt and debris in the areas that we have metal on metal. So a synthetic lubricant is always best. We've covered the barrel flats. A real area of note is the knuckle, as it's called, on the action. This should be lightly lubricated again before the forend is fitted. So the oil can be applied here and here, and this is to avoid unnecessary wear between the two surfaces of the action and the forend iron. We've applied a small amount of lubricant to the knuckle. The forend is fitted into place, and then any excess oil and lubricant can be wiped away from the action. Again, it's worth noting not to put grease in this area, as it does attract dirt, foreign debris, and can then cause unnecessary wear. On most modern day production over and under shotguns, it's worth noting that the inside of the action should not be over oiled. The reason for this is that if the action is over oiled, when the gun is in storage in a cabinet in this position, the oil will run down into the head of the stock, into the woodwork, and then will cause issues with the stock becoming soft, and ultimately could lead to the stock splitting through normal use. Following on from a day's shooting, cleaning the inside of the action in this area can be done with a lint-free cloth, an action blaster or cleanser. The whole area can be wiped away to remove any unnecessary debris or unwanted particles that could have gathered in the action through the course of the day of shooting. Once this area has been cleaned, a small amount of lubricant can be applied to the hinge discs in this area here and here. A small amount to the machined area here for the ejector studs. Other than that, there isn't any need to over lubricate this area of the action. Regarding the finish on the stocks, it would be worth noting that on any new gun, it would always be worth purchasing some stock conditioning oil. Every gun comes from the suppliers with a finish which is there to protect the wood, but with a conditioning oil we can enhance the finish. It's a very simple operation, and one that doesn't need to be overcomplicated in the early stages. Any stock conditioning oil can be applied with a small amount in the palm of your hand and applied to the surface in this fashion. If you over oil the stock and apply too much oil, you can cause yourself additional problems filling the checkering up with the oil, overrunning onto the action and onto the recoil pad. So be mindful, a small amount onto the stock to help protect the wood from the rain and elements. This can be palmed into the wood in a circular motion, trying to generate some heat so it spreads the oil. And once this has been rubbed on, because we've only applied a small amount of oil, generally speaking, there is no excess. For cleaning of the barrel after a day's shooting, we'll start with the outside of the barrel. It's worth noting that barrel blacking is not a protective coating. It will not prevent rust, so it's always important to remember, if your barrels get wet, come into contact with anything corrosive, that they should be wiped over really as soon as possible, not left in a slip for a number of hours, as this can cause the rusting in a very short space of time. Once you finish shooting, with some oil, either a spray or a synthetic oil on a rag, the outside of the barrel can be wiped over, as this is one of the most important areas to address first. The blacking can be wiped, or bluing can be wiped over. The area with the ejectors and the barrel flats should also be wiped over. A small amount of oil, as we've previously discussed, in this area, and also on the face of the barrels and the ejectors. With regards to the internal cleaning, all Beretta shotguns are chrome lined on the inside, which obviously makes them extremely rust resilient. That said, it is always worth following the process of cleaning your shotgun. The first step, running a phosphorus bronze brush through the barrel with a decent solvent to remove any debris. That process is then followed by mopping the barrel through, but not too much oil because we've got the chrome lined barrels. Once you've done that with the oil, it's worth pushing down a piece of tissue or cloth right the way through the barrel to remove any excess oil. With regards to cleaning the barrels, it's also extremely important to remember to remove the chokes from the barrels. This allows cleaning of the threaded area of the internal section of the barrel, but also cleaning of the actual choke tube itself. There is a tendency, and can be, for choke tubes to be left in place and not cleaned, and within a very short space of time the choke tubes will become stuck in the barrel, resulting in them needing to be freed by a gunsmith, and it can be a labour intensive and costly job. With regards to travelling with your gun, i.e. going to a clay pigeon shoot either in this country or abroad, it's always worth noting that it's good practice to remove the choke tubes. This can be highlighted especially when flying due to the different structures and molecular structure of the metal. The choke tubes can expand in the barrel and cause unnecessary damage. When we come to the cleaning of the barrel, the internal bore of the barrel, initially you can use an action blaster detergent or a bore foam. Both of these are particularly good for removing and breaking down any build-up of lead fouling or plastic fouling in the barrel. With the phosphorus bronze brush, the barrel is scrubbed through in this fashion. This will remove any of the debris that's stuck to the inside of the barrel. Once this process has taken place, with a rag, tissue or a lint-free cloth, the cloth can be pushed through the bore of the barrel to remove any excess oil, leaving the bore of the barrel clean and oil free. At this point, it's worth noting, with the advent of shotguns with bigger bore diameters, the foam and a cleaner is ever more important, but also as is the use of a chamber brush rather than a standard diameter phosphorus bronze brush. The chamber brush is bigger in diameter and therefore will come into greater contact with the bore of the barrel and allow the cleaning and more efficient cleaning of the bore of the barrel because of the oversized barrel. If you ever find that you do have an excess build-up of leading and fouling in the barrel, it's always worth remembering that the chamber brush will be the effective way of removing this coating from the inside of the barrel. It's not a fault of the barrel, it is down to the fact that you need to increase the size of the chamber brush to allow greater cleaning. Now that we've cleaned the barrel internally and externally, if you ever do notice that you have some areas of rust on the outside of the barrel, this ultimately is only going to lead to the barrel needing to be struck off and re-blacked. When we say struck off, this process involves removing the original bluing or blacking, and if there is any rust, that rust will need to be filed out of the metal. This is a job that needs to be carried out by a competent gunsmith or barrel maker. The reason for the pitting and the rust needing to be removed is because ultimately it will continue to eat into the surface of the barrel and eventually cause all sorts of problems. Continuing on with the fitting of forends, it's worth noting that on newer guns, sometimes the forend catch will stay in this position. It's a very simple operation. As long as the forend catch is not too proud, it can be knocked into place with a slight tap of the palm of the hand. And with regards to removal, again, sometimes the catch can appear to be very stiff, but a small added pressure will allow the removal of the forend.